So hello and welcome to today's video. So I thought I'd try and do something a bit different, combining two of my interests into one video, that of course being Bully and the other one being Lost Media. Or well, Lost, cancelled and unreleased media anyway. Now while Bully doesn't have the same amount of lost media as say SpongeBob SquarePants does, there is a fair amount we can actually go over. And I have covered a few of these on the channel before, maybe a bit briefly, maybe a few of these have had dedicated videos, but you know, we're doing a Lost Media compilation, so be sure to check the timestamps to see what we're going over. So first of all, we're going to be going over the two private demo builds. Now while Bully itself has never had any officially released public demos, there are at least two known private demos that were shown to select gaming journalists over the years. The very first demo was shown off at E3 2005, and we know this because Bully was shown off worldwide. As in, the world got to see this one picture and a very brief synopsis, while on this bus here, which was at the E3 event, it stated Rockstar held a private, invite-only event where a select few people were shown gameplay of Bully via a demo. Now it stated this demo was incredibly linear, and it was that early it was set when the boy storm had its second floor intact. But anyway, this event took place in May 2005, which is about 17 months before Bully actually came out. So that gives you an idea to how many differences you can expect from this demo. Anyway, the demo supposedly began with Jimmy waking up in his dorm room and he's late for class. The player is then instructed to go to the bathroom to spring a leak. And then once you do that, you'd head downstairs into the lounge area, where the player would get an overview of the activities they could do in the dorm, such as watching TV, buying drinks and even playing darts. Worth noting that watching TV and playing darts was actually removed from the final game. And then a prefect turns up, yells at Jimmy for being late to class and demands you get dressed and hurry your ass to class anyway. Where once the player gets changed and you make your way to the class, you then do a completely different version of the mission Weed Killer, where the mission premise was the exact same because Jimmy would kill the crap in the Maxima plant, but the mission itself was completely different, because instead of Jimmy having to get a haircut and put on a preppy vest, Jimmy would find a preppy and give him a swirly for the password. The preppy Jimmy would find would more than likely be Tad Spencer going off other pre-release photos. Jimmy would then storm Harrington Hall, that's what it was called, not Harrington House, and when inside, Jimmy would fight off various preppies and destroy the Venus flytrap, because it wasn't called the crap in the Maxima at this point. But yeah, he would destroy the Venus flytrap by throwing firecrackers at it. Then the demo supposedly ends once the mission is beaten. Because this was the very first private look the gaming world got of Bully, it makes a lot of sense as to why this demo is seemingly very linear as opposed to the open world style we know and love. Now as it was shown very privately, no footage or pictures have ever surfaced of this, because it's more than likely Rockstar had a very strict policy regarding that. So now we jump forward about 15 months to August 2006. Where the second demo we're going to cover was much more finalised and much more open, and was shown to UK publisher Games Master, where they mentioned the demo they got to play contained a small handful of missions, which was about 6 of them. 5 of them were from Chapter 1 and Panty Raid from Chapter 2. And very interestingly, one of the missions featured here was a much different version of Rustle in the Hole. In the demo version of Rustle in the Hole, Help Gary never happens. Jimmy's just in his dorm room in the evening and he gets a note telling him he needs to head to the gym. And upon arriving, Jimmy is pushed into a makeshift pit, which is possibly the pool, where Russell is waiting for him. This was likely a demo exclusive thing to avoid spoiling the plot twist of Gary betraying Jimmy, so a quick mission was created to set Russell up as the antagonist. There's also no word of any actual fight with Russell here, so it's very possible this was a cliffhanger after the cutscene and then the demo would end. Other possible demo changes only mentioned Bullworth Town being explorable, nothing about Old Bullworth Vale, so it's quite possible the map was just the academy and the town for demo boundaries, which we have seen in quite a few other games as well. For example, Saints Row's demo only limits you to a very small part of Stillwater. And for the classes, art is swapped out with photography. And considering Jimmy gets a camera after beating Hattrick vs Galloway in Chapter 2, which is not a featured mission in this demo, it's possible he was given one for demo purposes, or it automatically spawns in his room like CJ's camera does in San Andreas. There's also mentions of a graffiti cleaning detention minigame, which was removed from the final version. There's no mention of any other side activities or character customization, and Defend Bucky also has no mention of getting a skateboard as a reward either. Another interesting thing to note is the magazine doesn't call the game Canis Canem Edit, which is what Bully was renamed to in the PAL region, that of course being UK, Europe and Australia, which by the time the magazine was published, the name change had already occurred. So this demo build was likely done and compiled before the name change was finalised. I did a video going over both of these in full a while back, and I'll put a link to both of these in the description below. So when Rockstar released Bully Anniversary Edition in 2016, many people at the time noted the trailer used a track that was completely brand new, and in fact, many people took this as a hint that Rockstar were possibly teasing Bully 2.
Don't get fresh with your homies.
And last but not least, the Jollies.
You like to torment weak kids, and you've got the person.
Because it was Bully's 10th anniversary, and this was a new song that nobody ever heard of before. Or so you'd believe, because this trailer track wasn't new at all, because it was used previously in a character trailer for Tad Spencer back on Rockstar's promo site.
You see, my father is a self-made man.
How dare you touch me, you filthy savage! Scoundrel! Have at you!
But in fact, I'm really nouveau riche.
Inbred, am I? My pants don't smell. No way!
Now this track has gone completely unreleased officially. The only way we can hear this track is in the Anniversary Edition trailer. Now we do have AI vocal removal tools which give us a slight taste of the actual track, but AI vocal removal tools are far from perfect and they're known to have distortion and scratchiness to them. And the fact Rockstar used a higher quality rendition of this track for Anniversary Edition does tell us they still have this in their archives. But it's also Rockstar, so the odds of this being released officially are very, very slim. There's also a possibility Sean Lee may have an archive of this in his works, but again, no guarantee of that, and please don't harass him. So for whatever reason, Rockstar were considering releasing Bully on the Nintendo DS, and it's also stated Rockstar leads were going to be put to work on this. Now not much is known about this at all because the news only broke about this in summer 2024, and the style of Bully DS was going for was obviously going to be a demake akin to GTA and Max Payne on Game Boy, because Rockstar in the 2000s, for whatever reason at least, liked making demakes of their own games for Nintendo handhelds. And Bully on the DS was pitched after the release of GTA Chinatown Wars, which as we know released in 2009, which gives us a time frame of when it entered development. Now Bully on the DS was supposed to be similar to that of GTA Chinatown Wars, but it was in its very, very early stages, so much so the team were allegedly spending more time experimenting with the game more so than actually developing it, and the game never really got off the ground fully at all, because the team were put to work on assisting other projects, and this is hinted at either being LA Noire or GTA 5, and it was never picked up again of course. So because this was cancelled very early on, we will likely never ever see this game. So I'm guessing nobody was expecting Opie and Anthony to be making an appearance in this video. But Simon Bestia has been hard at work on archiving all the pre-release photos of Bully, officially released ones all over the internet and even magazine ones. But there seem to be a few photos he's missing from his collection, which were seemingly sent off to Opie and Anthony. Because on Bully's release date, October 17, 2006 of course, Opie and Anthony did a spotlight on Bully, and with that came some exclusive promo pics that Rockstar sent them. Now obviously we only have the Wayback Machine to kind of check this, but on the Opie and Anthony site, if we click the Photos tab it takes us to Foundry Music, and here we can see a cropped low quality picture of one image, and the album is titled Bully the Game featuring Jim Norton and Steve C, which is also interesting because Jim Norton was the voice of Officer Morrison in the game. There is a very strong possibility there may be more missing promo images in this album. The one we can see a cropped preview of has the file name of 33_salvatore.jpg. That does not mean there are 33 pictures there, because from the searching means Simon Bestia did a while back, we determined that 33_ seems to be a bit of a prefix for these, but it does imply that all the other photos may have had character names as their file names too. Now we did also find out that Opie and Anthony do have a strong archival community, but from the skimming I did, it appears that they don't have this archived, and to be fair, why would they? This is way more Bully based than Opie and Anthony based. There is a possibility that these promo pics may exist in some magazine somewhere, or possibly on some really obscure gaming site that hasn't been updated since 2008. When Bully was announced at E3 2005, Rockstar also announced that Bully was coming to the Xbox alongside the PS2, and if you visited Bully's site in 2005 it also displayed the Xbox logo. But this release was quietly cancelled sometime around summer 2006. Rockstar never officially mentioned it was cancelled, they just completely dropped any Xbox marketing without any warning. Despite this however, there are a small amount of remnants of Bully's Xbox port, such as the box art, which features a completely different look to that of the PS2 one. And it also looks slightly thinner as well, and even has a lighter blue. And also some copies of GTA San Andreas on Xbox came with an advertisement card for the Warriors and Bully as well. Now while no official reason has ever been stated, it's likely due to the Xbox 360's release, and because Bully was delayed to 2006, because Bully was supposed to release in October 2005, and Rockstar probably didn't want their brand new game being released exclusively on last generation consoles an entire year later. So some of you may hear that and think, well, what about the PS3? While the PS3 itself was also announced at E3 2005, it was actually never released until November 17, 2006, an entire month after Bully came out anyway. And given the proximity of the dates between Bully and the PS3 release date, there likely wasn't much financial risk to Rockstar since most people don't jump straight to next generation anyway, so there'd be plenty of people still using the PS2 well into 2007 and beyond. So here's a rather strange oddity regarding the Final Showdown theme. In the game files, there's two variations of Final Showdown's theme, obviously the one we know, and the other one which was reused for the mission Rats in the Library, which is what you're hearing in the background now. There's 6 tracks combined, low, medium and high. So what's the oddity then? Clearly one was a cut version of the track but it got reused. What about it? Well, in the files, the track name for the Rats in the Library soundtrack is MS_Final Showdown, and the track name used for the actual Gary fight is MS Final Showdown 03, which heavily implies the fight theme went through at least 3 revisions before it was decided upon. Now interestingly, Final Showdown 02 doesn't exist, and the fact it's missing, as said, it implies it went through 3 revisions, possibly even more. But one thing is for sure, this version of the track has not been heard by anybody outside of Rockstar Vancouver for over 20 years. So this particular entry isn't 100% solely Bully related because it covers Rockstar's other franchises. But there was a cancelled artbook from Rockstar called Digital and Analog, The Art and Science of Rockstar Games, and this artbook was discovered on the well-known German publisher Stiegel Verlag's website. This book would have went extremely in-depth into everything Rockstar had ever worked on. Concept arts, illustrations, inspirations, photographs and more behind the scenes stuff from their work on GTA, obviously, but also Bully, Manhunt, Midnight Club, Red Dead Redemption, and even how the stuff in their games worked as well. This is also one of the only known pictures of it, which showcases off a very early artwork for Bully which features a different logo and a toddler version of Jimmy Hopkins wielding a water pistol. If we got this for Bully alone, just imagine what it would have contained for GTA. Now if this wasn't enough, Rockstar would have also bundled in a DVD for your PC packed with unknown exclusive content. Considering the art book was going to be filled with art, photos and concepts, it's possible the DVD may have had some never before seen behind the scenes footage, or possibly even beta never before seen footage of all our beloved franchises. The book was confirmed to be cancelled sometime in 2010 with no official reason ever given. Now this is just my own assumption, but I believe it may have got cancelled due to copyright. The listing did say Rockstar were going to include inspirations that they used, and Rockstar, especially for the GTA series, are very heavily known to be inspired by real life brands, films and celebrities. So I can see quite a few issues arising in that department, like the in-game brand Zip is obviously Gap, but you can't just slap Gap's logo onto a book without acquiring permission from them first, and given how many brands Rockstar parodied, it probably was some legal rights nightmare. The book was very clearly finalised since even previews of a few pages can be found and read, but likely only a very tiny amount of copies were ever printed before Rockstar demanded the cancellation. So Bully 2 is probably the one that I've spoken about the most on this channel, so I'm going to keep it brief. So I hope you've got another 3 hours to spare. So after the release of Bully Scholarship Edition in 2008, Rockstar New England were assigned the task of working on the sequel, because Rockstar Vancouver, who were the original developer studio behind Bully 1, they were already down to work on Max Payne 3, which itself began development after Bully's release anyway. Development on Bully 2 was going quite well. They had a few missions done, they had most of the map done, Sean Lee also confirmed he was composing the soundtrack for it in 2009, and they also had a playable build of the game which was about 6 hours long. Keep in mind, Bully 2 was far from complete. The story was a direct follow-up to Bully 1, and while the entire plot has never been leaked, developers have said it did involve a summer camp, and various concept arts of the map and characters leaked online in 2017, alongside Agent, which was another cancelled Rockstar game. Bully 2 was never officially announced, so of course it's never going to be officially cancelled. But the reason it was cancelled was because Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne 3 were having some serious development issues, and Rockstar were incredibly concerned about this. So Rockstar temporarily halted Bully 2 to ensure Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne were going to meet their release date, but then quietly cancelled Bully 2 much to the team's discretion. The project was picked up twice after this, in the 2010s and around 2017, but due to how much time had passed from the original concepts of Bully 2, The new team had a creative fallout over what direction the game should go in. Some believing it should be a completely new game, similar to how Red Dead Redemption was to Red Dead Revolver, and others believing it should still carry on with Jimmy's story, but in college. But ultimately they couldn't come to an agreement, and the project was cancelled again. Had Bully 2 not been cancelled due to Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne, former New England developers estimate the game likely would have came out in about 2012. Also, as we know, Rockstar haven't had the best few years, constantly suffering all kinds of leaks with GTA 5 source code and GTA 6. But people have allegedly found Bully 2 strings and mentions inside the GTA 5 source code leak. Now before I begin this next part, it is possible this was just a concept and it never went anything further than that, but I believe this was remnants of a very early idea Rockstar scrapped. But this hardcase kiosk concept was posted to a developer's portfolio. Now as we can see, we have what I assume is a 78-inch tall kiosk, which would put it at about 6.5 feet high, with a 23-inch screen. Now as said, there is no proof this went any further than a concept design stage, but the interesting thing about this is gaming kiosks are used as a way for members of the public to try out a demo of a game or a game system for free. You've probably seen these around quite a few times. McDonald's used to have them, quite a few gaming stores often had kiosks of like Xbox, PlayStation or whatever, and at some events like E3, event attendees actually had the chance to play some demos of announced games, which is kind of like what you're seeing on screen now. Considering the design of the kiosk is very clearly Bully and Bully only, unlike other gaming kiosks from around the same time, it seems very likely this was planned for an event, possibly E3 or possibly some other private invite only event again. Now many of you will say, but Rockstar don't do public demos, they're a very private company. Which is true, but you would be surprised because Rockstar have done demo kiosks of Rockstar Table Tennis and Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare in the past. However, in both of these cases, Rockstar completely banned any pictures or videos being taken, and they purposely walled off their booth to avoid people getting a sneaky look in. You were allowed to go in and play a demo, but no pictures, no videos, nothing at all. Now another thing that points to this being concept only is the fact absolutely nobody has ever mentioned seeing a Bully kiosk. So it is very likely there were plans for Rockstar to release a public demo, but then they canned the idea very early on. It is worth noting that in the final game, Simon Bestia states there are actually strings in the game that checks if you're playing the demo when you boot the game up. And if it's triggered, it's supposed to boot you into Save Algae or Halloween. But this function is completely broken on the retail release and apparently results in a crash or something. So why would Rockstar have checks for a demo and even have a possible demo mode if they weren't at least considering releasing a public demo to begin with? Now I might be overthinking this part a little bit, but if we take a look at the picture that's used on the concept, obviously this is a promo screenshot, but it's that early, the bullies are in vests, and it also features a completely unknown girl character too. And the box art still has rating pending on it, indicating this concept was made way before Bully was close to being properly finalised. So for this part, I'm just going to replay the video I made back in about 2021 or so. It's only about 1 minute 30 long, if that. Also because absolutely nothing else has surfaced about this. I was rereading an interview on EGM with Bully producer Geronimo Barria over his thoughts on Bully, and something about the interview caught my eye. In this interview, the interviewer mentions that Bully was a featured topic on a show called Best Week Ever, which was a topical comedy show that went over the week's events and ran from 2004 to about 2009 before being cancelled for the first time. The show aired on the VH1 network, and Bully's appearance on the show apparently included some controversy about Jimmy being bisexual or something like that. Either way, apparently Bully's appearance was about some controversy. So I went to see if I could find this clip from the show, and it turns out most of the show appears to be lost entirely. It's not available on any streaming services like Netflix or Amazon Prime, nor is it available on any free alternative sources. A very few select clips and episodes have surfaced online, but not the one that has Bully in it. The episode that specifically mentions Bully, according to some really obscure site, is Season 5 Episode 6, which aired on October 27th, 2006. And while this synopsis does look like keyword stuffing, it surprisingly isn't going off the one episode I watched. But I do believe this is the episode that has the Bully content in it because this was at a time where Bully was still an incredibly controversial game, and at the time of the episode's airing, Bully would have released just under 2 weeks ago. Either way, it would be really interesting to see if this clip still exists somewhere, like be it on some obscure site or somebody's got a recording of it, because I don't think there's much archive about Bully's controversy, especially appearing on a comedy show of all places too. And so that was a small selection of lost media surrounding Bully. What bit of lost media from this video would you like to see surface? I mean, being honest, I don't think any of these are going to surface, but if you had to choose one, which one would you like to see? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.